coverage of the Subaru Cape Rally is brought to you with the compliments of Subaru South Africa. Subaru, the ultimate all-wheel drive. Welcome to the 2006 Subaru Cape Rally, penultimate round of the Sasol South African Rally Championship. Despite the threat of cold, wet and windy weather, spectators turned out in their hundreds to witness the thrills and spills of the two-day event. The 2006 event consisted of 11 stages and some 210 kilometers of special stages out of a total distance of 650 kilometers. Day 1 saw the rally crews converge on the Swartland town of Riebeek-Kasteel for the opening stage, before tackling tests near Maritzburg and Malmesbury. Cape Town's Killarney Racing Circuit hosted the last 3 stages of the day. On day 2, the rally moved west and north between Darling and Maritzburg, before returning to Killarney for the final stage of the event. The Swartland is one of South Africa's largest wheat-producing regions, and the green wheat fields are a particular feature of the area. But the region also hosts some of the country's finest wine and olive estates, while the pastoral splendor of the landscapes are world-renowned. However, the focus of this weekend was firmly on the high-octane, adrenaline-pumping action that is special stage rallying. Championship leader Enzo Kuhn was intent on clinching the title in the Cape. Consistency has been a hallmark of the lanky pilot's season thus far. But teammate Jannie Habig had no intentions of making it easy for Enzo, hoping to improve his third spot on the logs. On his home turf, local hero Serge Damso was planning a turnaround to his dismal season thus far. Production car championship leader Nicholas Ryan was also hoping for a good result to cement his title aspirations. Etienne Lawrence was another potential title candidate to watch, while Jürgen Fecken's spectacular style would again make him a real crowd pleaser. Ryan, Charles Wilkin and the young John Williams. Interestingly, only a single point split JP Damso and his father Serge. In the battle of the classes, Enzo and Ryan were tops in the S2000 and N4 respectively, with Chris de Wit heading up N3 and Costa Kamontarakis in the N2 hot seat. A7 and A6 were headed by JP Damso and Eugene Lawrence respectively, with Michael Houghton leading A5. Cape Town city centre provided the backdrop of the official start of the Subaru Cape Rally, although the real action would only start on stage 1 outside Riebeek-Kasteel. Drawn car 1, it was Habig who came under starter's orders first. Stage 1 was a 16.55 kilometer gravel test, with the fine gravel and sand promising smooth going and high speeds. The spectators were expecting top-class action, and they wouldn't be disappointed. The S2000 total Toyota Runex of Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermaak certainly showed a good turn of speed, but the Centurion driver struggled to find a clean line through this tight right-hander. By comparison, BP Volkswagen's Jannie Habig and Doug Judd were smoother and more incisive, and clocked a better time. But failing to clock into service at the end of the stage 1 would cost them a 5-minute penalty. An aggressive Serge Damso and navigator Robert Paisley found even more pace, trouncing Habig and Judd, despite a puncture close to the end of the stage. Kuhn and Guy Hodgson made their intentions clear in no uncertain terms and went faster still. The would-be champion makes it look all too easy. But it was the charismatic Jürgen Fecken and Pierre Aris that set the quickest time of the stage, as our class leaderboard shows. Even so, the margins were small, and there was a long, long way to go. While the S2000 cars were crossing swords, the scuffle in the N4 production vehicle category was pretty absorbing too. Spaniard Fernando Rueda and co-pilot Martin Buerta were giving it horns in their Team Total Mitsubishi Evo 9. The creepy-crawly Subaru Impreza WRX STI of Fischer du Plessis and Dave Lekowitz looked pretty rapid too. And there was no lying down by Paul Pfeiffer and navigator Cindy Harding. Pfeiffer has shown good pace this year and was intent on trouncing brother-in-law Rueda. Nick Ryan and Skulk van Heerden look quicker than their N4 rivals. But not quite quick enough. Fastest stage time in N4 belonged to Johnny Gemmell and stand-in navigator Peter Marsh from Zimbabwe, who were already looking dangerous. Their time on stage 1 was 7 seconds better than Ryan and 17 seconds faster than Pfeiffer. The good news for spectators was that battles were brewing all the way down the field. Take A7 for example. Adrian Karth and Des Defortier were quickly embroiled in a tussle with veterans Tony Ball and Alan Bissett, both in similar VW Golfs. Making it a VW threesome were Barry Grobbelaar and Carolyn Swan in their Sassel Golf. But none of the Golfs could match the pace of Castrol Toyota's Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich, who looked spectacular enough, but ended up only third fastest. They couldn't match the pace of youngster John Williams and father-come navigator Doug, who were 3 seconds quicker than the Pretoria duo. However, it was JP Damso and Cobus Frey who set the early pace, taking 7 seconds off the Williams combo. That must have made the rest of the A7 crowd's eyes water. Stage 2, a lengthy 30 kilometers on good Swartland gravel, promised more of the same action. The Swartland stages are known for their fast, open sweeps and grippy surface, inviting high-speed driving. Lying second in the championship behind Kuhn, Lorenz had a point to prove in the Cape, but it wasn't to be. A puncture meant he lost 2 minutes in this stage alone, and that was only the beginning of his woes. By comparison, Kuhn's plans were nicely on track. The BP VW Polo was going like the proverbial Boeing, but Enzo was also keeping something in reserve. Chasing too hard too early could have dire consequences. Ficken has to be one of the fastest guys in local rallying, and his style is certainly spectacular, but on this stage he couldn't match the pace of Serge. The wily Toyota Ace really put the hammer down in stage 2, making up for the time lost due to a flat on the opening test. The reward? The top spot after stage 2, ahead of all 3 VW Polos. In the production car category, the action was also starting to hot up, despite the deceptively calm surroundings. Diamond dealer du Plessis has come a long way since first opting for an all-wheel drive Subaru, but he suffered a puncture on stage 2, allowing JP Damso to catch him. The tall wheat fields in the Swartland make it difficult to follow some of the smaller vehicles. The A5 rivalry in particular usually makes for fine motorsport. Pete Bacchus and Armand Dutoy were one of 8 crews in the ultra-competitive A5 class. Running in total colors were Class A5 Taz contenders Vusi Mabanga and Grant Martin. Gugu Zulu and Rikus Fourie have been at the sharp end of the A5 fray for much of the season. Etienne Malherbe and Henny Buertes were looking good in their Toyota Taz. But pedaling their VW Chico even faster were Shane and Rob Williams. Second VW Works crew in A5, Andre Kleinwerk and Mark Irving, were right up there with the leaders. As always, the real battle in the class was between Zulu Fourie and the team total Taz of Michael Houghton and Bryn Doherty. As our leaderboard shows, Zulu held a 16-second advantage over Houghton at this stage, with Kleinwerk Irving a further 21 seconds back. Stage 3 was Neuensdam, a 17.5-kilometer test between Riebeek Kasteel and Malmesbury. Again, the terrain looked good for fast action and the rain was staying away. No wonder the spectators were a happy bunch. The event was turning into a nightmare for Lawrence. A misfire here cost the crew almost 3 minutes. Second in the championship before this rally, his chances were slipping away. Habich's 5-minute penalty was not the VW driver's only problem. A misfire was taking its toll too. But in the Kuhn camp, it was all systems green. Oozing confidence, Enzo and Hodgson were taking a smooth, quick approach, hunting down points rather than chasing victory. Often accused of being a bit hot-headed, Kuhn clearly had the title in his sights, but he certainly wasn't hanging about. Note to Polo drivers, you may think you can, but don't try this in your car. Damso's mission was victory, pure and simple. With no championship chance, the win was all he wanted. In true Cape fashion, there were spectators everywhere. The creepy-crawly Subaru of Du Plessis was struggling to keep up with the frontrunners. Rueda was working hard in the slippery stuff and was also drifting back. A committed Nick Ryan was keeping his production car title hopes alive. Pfeiffer's Evo 8 was showing an impressive turn of speed on home turf. But class of the production field was still Gemmell. After stage 3, he led Pfeiffer by a full 1 minute and 7 seconds, a masterly performance. While some spectators found a bit of solitude, the rally action was anything but quiet. Stage 3 would be the nemesis of JP Damso and Kobus Frey. They retired with a cracked gearbox. The young John Williams had little reason to smile either. He broke a drive shaft in stage 2, losing 8 minutes. This dropped the Williams family team well behind fellow A7 protagonists Karth and De Fortier, who were still embroiled in a good dice with Ball and Bissett. A good performance by Grobelaar and Swan saw them second in A7 at this point. But with JP out of the way, the Castrol Toyota of Wilkin and Godrich looked unbeatable, with a 1 minute 15-second cushion over Grobelaar. Although there was no rain, this stage had plenty of wet and muddy sections to test the crews and entertain the spectators. Etienne Dutoy and Patrick Vermaak looked smooth in their Class N2 Toyota Corolla. Costa and Barry White were 30 seconds quicker than Dutoy and giving it stick. But local hero Mike Nathan and Rikke Smit were keeping their nose in front of the class. For some, the action passed right by their front door. From the dust, dirt and mud of the Swartland to the hard, thankfully dry tarmac of the Killarney racing circuit, where the next 3 stages would take the teams well into the night. The track is popular with spectators, with cars pitted against each other in what becomes pretty frenetic track action. For Jan Habich, the rally was not going according to plan.
We're having a bit of a tough day today. We had some damage to electrical wiring through a water splash. So we've had a misfire since stage 2, stage 3. So we're quite far down at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, we're still going. So we'll keep pushing and see how much time we can make up.
Ficken turned up the wick on gravel and was now third.
We won the first stage, and I think Serge worked up big time on the second stage. He gave us quite a hiding, and third stage went well. So yeah, we're not far off. We're just behind Enzo, so times are looking good.
We're expecting some rain tomorrow. I think that'll spice up things even more. But personally, we've had a good run and we focused. The car feels very good, and we've got a new motor, a new gearbox in the car, and it feels very precise. I'm just taking it easy. We haven't pushed hard today. We've got to take it stage by stage. The VW Polo is very reliable at the moment. It's a very good car, and I enjoy driving it.
Was Enzo concerned about Damso's pace?
One would expect some stage wins from the Toyota, but you know, we've got some cards in hand, so let's see how we fare tomorrow. It's nice to know that we can push a bit harder if we need to.
Damso was leading Kuhn by 17 seconds after 3 stages.
First stage we had a puncher towards the end of the stage, so that slowed us a bit down. Stage 2 we had actually a very good stage. It felt a bit slow to me, but the time was there. So, and in the third stage we had a bit of a throttle position, giving us a problems there, but we didn't lose much time. The engine is actually very strong at the moment, so the car handles it very well. So we just have to keep the thing going.
Fastest production car pilot at this point was Johnny Gemmell.
When we're going well. It's, you know, the things that have been happening out of our control. You know, it's mechanical things, and so it's not really nice. Only the last one was really our fault, a little bit too fast in the corner, but the other non-finishes, it was mechanical problems out of our reach, really. We couldn't do anything about them.
The tarmac of Killarney was set to sort out the men from the boys, with stages 4, 5 and 6 promising high-speed action. The staggered starts and multiple laps create very close racing that's completely different to the usual special stage format, and the crowds arrived in their thousands to lap up the action. The tar wars in the production class were equally hectic. Here, Gemmell sweeps past a fast-starting Rueda. Here's Enzo on a hot lap, with Serge right behind. In S2000, Habich was showing his aggression, with Damso, the Toyota filling, in a VW sandwich. Ficken was in close proximity. It's an all-total affair as Rueda's Evo 9 is joined by teammate Lawrence in the S2000 Run-X. There's mayhem as Rueda, Lawrence and Wilkin all push through the tight corner, with Duplessis starting right behind them. Tony Ball takes an unconventional line into a tight left, while Rocky Reinecker uses his wide Subaru to squeeze out an eager Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin in the A6 Castrol Run-X. Andy Hayes-Smith becomes a victim of Killarney's notorious banked hairpin, but survives. The Subaru Cape Rally was the first to use new anti-jump start measures. A jump start sensor creates a beam in front of the start position. It's linked to the timing system and senses if a car crosses the start line before the allotted time. The penalties are severe. 10 seconds for a first offence, a minute for the second, and 5 minutes for a third transgression. Stages 5 and 6 see competitors going head-to-head. Also run on tar, the stages include tricky sections through the pits and the subway. Starting the cars in pairs created close rivalry and great racing for young and old. Ryan was looking as committed as ever. As darkness fell, the conditions became trickier for both drivers and navigators. Here, Duplessis misjudges the hairpin, but uses the Subaru's all-wheel drive to recover. The cockpit can become a very busy place. Ex-racing driver Wilkin, leading A7, was looking particularly strong on tar. Wilkin, Duplessis and Gemmell share the stage win with a time of 1 minute 47. Rueda's Mitsubishi couldn't match the Little Runex's nimble reactions, but look at that acceleration. Despite all his problems, Habich wasn't giving up and pushed his BP Volkswagen Polo to the limit. The track environment, bright headlights and very close dices between cars adds a further dimension to rallying that has become hugely popular with the rally crowds. And let's not forget the service crews, who selflessly toil away well into the night, long after the drivers have left for their cozy hotel rooms. At the end of day one, Damso enjoyed a 21-second lead over Kuhn, with Fecken still third. Leading the production car battle was Gemmell in fourth, with Ryan almost a minute and a half behind. In the class battles, Damso and Gemmell led S2000 and N4 respectively, while Wilkin is tops in A7. Heading A6 is Eugene Lawrence, with Gugu Zulu ahead in A5. Tops in N3 are Quibus Rus and Neil Ferree, with Nathan still heading N2. The Cape Doctor brought his cold and wet medicine to the Subaru Rally on day 2, with heavy rain turning the stages to slush. Stage 7 was the first of the day, with 12 kilometers of dirt setting the muddy scene. Conditions caused the Zero car to get stuck, delaying the start of the stage. As Gemmell's Mitsubishi Lancer Evo demonstrates, even all-wheel drive doesn't solve the traction problems when conditions are as slippery as this. And slippery it stayed, demanding a cautious approach from the crews. The S2000 Polo of Habich looked even more out of sorts in the mud. Enzo, starting further back in the hope that the cars ahead would open up some tractable surfaces, still found conditions difficult, but looked more composed through this section. The crowds loved the action, regardless of the weather. Have some pity for the poor service crews, however.
It's real miserable weather, but you know, it's the same for everyone. Yeah, it's pretty wet out there. It's slippery, and you know, one's got to be very careful. There's not a lot of grip to fix a mistake that you've made, so yeah, you've got to be wide awake. Even if it's four-wheel drive, it's still very slippery, so yeah, it's a bit tough going out there. On the last stage we tried too hard and had an overshoot, so too hard, and it's another 10-15 seconds lost, so you know, we just got to maybe back off a little bit and keep it clean.
The service park was a hive of activity as the crews toiled to fettle their steeds despite the conditions.
We had quite a clean stage, you know, and slippery out there, and you know, it's very difficult to judge yourself where you are until you got to the end of the stage. So actually quite pleased that we made up a little bit more time there. So now the long one's coming up, and that's going to be the tough one.
In the Kuhn camp, some communication problems almost led to disaster.
We were testing our relationship in there, but it worked out fine. We didn't lose too much time and got through it clean. Yeah, we had a complete intercom failure now in the stage. It was quite interesting in the rain, and so replaced my helmet now, and it seems to be fine.
In A6, Skalkberger and Van Grienen were giving it horns, but front-wheel drive makes it difficult in the wet stuff. Cronje and Birkin seem to be coping with the conditions more effectively. Craig Trott and Nigel Hicks were also pushing hard. But still leading the A6 pack were Lawrence and Jacobs in their trusty Conquest, enjoying a 37-second advantage over Trott Hicks, with Cronje a mere 4 seconds further back. As the second day of the Subaru Cape Rally continued, soaking rain only made the stage conditions worse for drivers, better for spectators.
In this first stage this morning, very slippery towards the end, and a few guys will have problems there, I'm sure.
The rain was now really pelting down, and the rally's longest stage lay ahead.
This is the one, everyone's on wets now, you know, it's raining, slippery. If you get a flat in here, you know, that's 3-4 minutes gone, so you got to do it right.
They call it Sandkloof, but you can be sure that it was all mud and no sand on this very long 46-kilometer stage. It promised to be a humdinger. Pfeiffer's Lancer Evo 9 became a tail-happy beast in these conditions. The Mitsubishi driver has shown good promise this year, but his run of bad luck continued, forcing him to retire on stage 8. The Cape has the most loyal and enthusiastic spectators in the country. They came out to see action, and Rocky Reiniger provided lots of reasons to cheer with his flamboyant style. Lola and Megan Verlaak were having a good run in their Subaru despite several spins. A determined Ryan was keeping his title hopes very much alive. For the Bosel-sponsored driver, it was all about survival of the fittest.
There was one section at 30 kilometers on the last stage. We were warned that the car zero got stuck there, and so we decided to hit it flat out. We luckily got through it, and then there's another patch after that, so you hit it correct, hit another one correct, and just hope you're more or less on the road. It was crazy.
Fernando Rueda has a reputation for being spectacular, and in the wet, that was certainly the case. The cockpit became a very, very busy place.
So many times that you don't know if you're in control, if the car is in control, if the ground is in control. It really is, it's just, you need to be very, very careful. Try and be as steady as you can. And even then, it's, you know, driving at 8/10 is like driving 12/10 on the drive, because it's just, you don't know. You get to a point that it looks good. As you hit the brake, there is just nothing. Or even on the straight, sometimes as soon as you hit the paddle, it starts to go. And in fifth gear, when you start doing this, and the poles, and the trees, and the only way to stay is to keep it on. If you lift, you die.
The downhill sections were particularly tricky, as Gemmel's gingerly approach demonstrates. The slippery slopes made braking nigh impossible. Compared to Rueda, Gemmel looked surprisingly cautious, but the times told the real story. Gemmel was now 2 minutes 21 seconds ahead of Rueda, with Ryan another 48 seconds further back.
This time we took it easy. This was 46 Ks, like I said earlier. Any problems there, you're just about out of it. So we took it easy. A lot of water in this one. I'm sure a few guys have picked up problems. There was like 300 meters at a time of just water. You know, a little bit of water in the wrong place, you're in trouble.
In wet and slippery conditions, a more cautious approach can often pay handsome dividends. Rueda looked faster and spectacular, but if you compare the in-car footage, you'll see far less steering input from Gemmel, while Fernando is constantly correcting and overcorrecting as he fights the car. Gemmel was calmer, cleaner, and quicker. However, the crowds much prefer the spectacular approach. The expected N3 challenge of Mohamed Musa and John Dearlove came to naught after a stage 1 puncture, while a 1-minute penalty later tumbled them further down the order. Chris de Wit and Patrick Yende were consistently among the N3 leaders and on their way to buttoning up another class championship. Rodney Fasahi and Arno Lachanzi were also in the thick of the N3 fray, but would later succumb to gearbox problems. The Johannesburg-based driver was involved in a close tussle with de Wit and Roos for much of the event, and will be disappointed to have been sidelined with only 2 stages to go. Roos and Fari, however, were the class of the field in their Sasol Toyota Runex, even if their lead at the end of this stage was a very slim single second ahead of Fasahi, with de Wit another 10 seconds behind at this point. Out on the stages, it wasn't getting any drier. One of the heartbreak stories of the Subaru Cape Rally was that of Etienne Lawrence, who came to the Cape lying second in the championship.
We wanted a clean one now. They would have pushed up right up in between the A7s, but I think the A7s are going to beat us now. Another 2 minutes gone. Misfire, I don't know, maybe coils something. It was before we hit the water, so it can't be water, but it's a combination. On some places I couldn't even pull off, so yeah, bad, hectic stage.
A 5-minute penalty and lots of problems didn't dampen Habig's spirit, however. The KZN rally ace was still out there giving it all, despite losing the front brakes. Just how hard he was trying was evident at the rear of the Polo.
Doesn't stop that well in the mud with the handbrakes. I think we got too close to a fence somewhere along the line. 1k into the 46 k's we lost the front brakes. I think a stone knocked the pipe off. So we only had the handbrake to stop with, and then halfway through we went through another water splash, and I think we got damage on the crank sensor again. So yeah, it was not a good stage.
Serge was going like a train, but his sizable lead was cut to just seconds by a puncture.
We're back down to 13 seconds. This long stage we had a puncture towards the end, so we lost a bit of time there, so now it's a fight again. But we'll see the next 2 weeks. Still got 2 stages, so yeah, try and keep it going.
Despite the best preparation, staying on the road is sometimes a matter of luck.
You think you're going to land on the road, but you're more off the road than on the road, you know. But anyway, lucky go 4-wheel drive. That's I would love 2-wheel drive today.
Fekken's Polo had also been through the wars as deep troughs of water took their toll. Not that Fekken was lifting off. Nor was his the only damaged car.
There's big water splashes and they're quite long, so you really have to hit them hard, otherwise you probably get stuck. So we hit them flat out and it does a lot of damage to the Tupperware.
The calmest of them all was champion-elect Enzo Kuhn. Clearly focused on keeping it together, Enzo made it look all too easy, but the Polo was telling a different story.
Lost some body panels, you know, they just fly off as you hit the water at that speed. I mean, some serious forces, you can feel them coming through the steering wheel and just trying to rip those wheels off, but we survived it. Well done on the car. Yeah, it was very, very, very wet in there. You know, we had like a couple of 100 meters of standing water, and sometimes it was quite tricky because the water was only on the one path of the one wheel. So when you hit the water in 5th gear on the right hand wheel, it pulls the car into the water and then, you know, puts you on a little Jeep track completely sideways. So it was quite interesting. And but really deep trenches as well, you know, where the water comes over the bonnet and you lose visibility, and no, it's, testing conditions.
With the rain still pelting down and the water getting deeper, anything could still happen. Cape Rally's second day was a drenched affair, but the spectators never stopped smiling. Stage 9 was a 26-kilometer affair, and not surprisingly again promised wet, slippery and muddy conditions. The crowd were out in force with a dazzling array of rainwear, some more effective than others. Hergen Fekken continued where he left off, pushing hard and proving why many believe he has all the makings of a champion, if only all that potential was reflected in the results. Damso too was looking committed, although he had clearly decided that chasing for victory was not the strategy of the day, unless of course Damso ran into more problems. For Lawrence, on the other hand, the rally was an event best forgotten. At least the plucky driver still managed to entertain the crowds. That wall will never be the same again. Having slipped to within the grasp of the Polos, Damso needed a good stage and he took 10 seconds off Enzo and 29 seconds off Fekkin. But it was the ever-committed Habech who was quickest of all, chancing even Serge by 4 seconds, and that despite some wide lines. Behind the top guns, the conditions were also playing havoc with the smaller, less powerful cars. In A5, the tussle between Houghton and Zulu continued unabated, with the pair swapping stage bests. The rivalry between the two crews has been a highlight of the season, and both are hoping for drives in quicker machines next year. The A5 class is also favourite territory for privateers, who find the mix of affordability and performance just right. Pete Buckus took the slippery stuff in his stride. As did Malherbe, who wasn't about to be intimidated by a little bit of water. Houghton too kept his foot flat through the water splashes. But it was BP VW Chico driver André Kleinwerk who surprised the rest at this point, leading by 23 seconds from Houghton, with Malherbe a further 1 minute 35 seconds further back. With some blue sky starting to show through the clouds, spectators arrived from everywhere, adding to the afternoon's festive air. In A7, the rivalry between Tony Ball and Adrian Karth continued unabated as the two Golfs went at each other hammer and tongs. Karth seemed to have the better of the KZN driver though. John Williams is one of the young drivers benefiting from the official sanctioning of pace notes. Listen to his navigator father's instructions.
Bump left 1 in, 250, attack right 6, narrows to right 7, over crest into left 3,
pace notes are a leveler that ensure all teams are on the same playing field, regardless of local knowledge. Expect youngsters like Williams to up their pace even more in seasons to come. Charles Wilkin was now dominating A7 and is another driver who has taken to pace notes like a duck to water.
Turn a cue hairpin left for 4, and then cue hairpin left. And left 7, 60 left 7, in right 9, into right 8. Right 8, let's turn left 9, yeah, both times. And left 6, caution, left 9. There's the left 9, 9, 9, 9. Turn open, hairpin right, and opens to right 2, and will exit palm through Matt's gate over there.
The ex-racing driver has swapped the tar for gravel with quiet confidence, and after some early hiccups, now commands his rally weapon with consummate control. Pace notes will up his consistency and could pave the way for an S2000 drive. Wilkins declared goal.
Max crest, and keep it max for a long time. There's 2 max crests coming up, down at the bottom of the hill. Now in 400, think easy left right, then 600, easy left right here, 600, caution, now 500, caution, 100 before the green tank. Okay.
penultimate stage, and the last one on gravel, was a repeat of day one's 30-kilometer stage, and was the last real chance for those crews still seeking to improve their positions. Fecken, sensing that he could still take advantage of any mishap befalling either Damso or teammate Kuhn, gave it horns one last time, and lost another fender in the process. Equally determined to at least save some face after all the mishaps, Lawrence was trying hard, almost too hard. But Damso would have nothing of these challenges. Smelling victory, he wasn't about to slow down, nor open a window of opportunity for the VW Polos. Enzo, tantalizingly close to his first ever championship title, wasn't hanging about, but wasn't taking unnecessary chances either. The same couldn't be said for Habich, who threw all caution to the wind as he racked up his second stage win on the trot. With one stage to go, Serge was comfortably in the lead, with Enzo trailing the Toyota by 17 seconds. Fecken's 1 minute 13 deficit would be impossible to bridge with only the short Killarney tar stage to go. After all the mud and slush, returning to the clean tar of Killarney was a relief for the crews. Only 11 kilometers separated them from the checkered flag, and given the conditions, there were a lot of survivors to entertain the spectators. With a similar format to the previous day's Killarney stage, the action was again as close as it was entertaining. The battle between Habich's Polo and Gemmel's Lancer Evo was a particular highlight, and especially Habich's very late braking maneuvers. Enzo, in a celebratory mood, was also in on the action. The N4 steeds of Ryan, Rueda and Visser as joined by track king Wilkin. Ryan was sweating, his gearbox was packing up, but the Subaru kept going. There was action all the way down the field, with some of the late braking antics enough to send smoke billowing from the tires. Cornier, in particular, used his karting experience to barge past Costa, with Nathan in very close attendance and Reinecker an active spectator. Meanwhile, the front runners were already in Parc Fermé. Winning N6 in convincing fashion were Mike Nathan and Rikke Smit. The N3 winners were Kobus Rus and Neil Ferree, pending a Mohamed Musa appeal. In N4, Johnny Gemmel and Peter Marsh took the well-deserved honours. A5's close dices eventually favoured Michael Houghton and Bryn Doherty. A6 went to the promising Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin. Eventually unchallenged, Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich took the A7 victory. In S2000 and in overall terms, Serge Damso and Robert Paisley earned the champagne. It was bubbly all round as the winners celebrated, and none more so than an elated Enzo Kuhn, who won his first ever South African National Rally Championship.
I've waited about 15 years for this. Like you can see, we're drenched in champagne. Our guy's been at it for 23 years, so we're excited and we're so happy about it. We didn't want to go to the last event to win it.
And at the end of last year, I said to Guy, I never even want to have to do the last event to win the championship. So we did it before that as per plan.
For Serge, the Subaru Cape Rally victory, his 70th overall, was a special one.
Yeah, 70th, and well done to Enzo for the championship. I think he really deserved it, and most probably we'll see more of him in the future.
And so to the results. For Serge Damso, a well-deserved return to winning form after a disappointing season, while second for Enzo Kuhn was enough to clinch the title. Not too many surprises here, although Gemmel's victory signals a winning form that will have the rest of the N4 pilots worried.